I guess I got some chopping to do. Hey guys, welcome to Elevated Systems. I'm your host CJ. Now, in one of my very first videos, I received a package containing a computer to upgrade from my oldest daughter. Unfortunately, FedEx seemingly used that package for like an intramural rugby match or something. And it arrived, well, beat the So today, we're gonna build her a brand new production workstation, or we're gonna start to build it today. I'm gonna spread this build out over a few parts, but all within a tight time frame because I'm driving this completed system 1,000 miles to her in just less than 2 months. So as you can see here, I already have the core system assembled, and I've done the boring stuff like cloning her old hard drive to a new SSD, updating software, tuning the system, tweaking some overclock settings, and doing the stability testing. Today, I'm going to tear it all back down to first introduce you to the core components of this build, and second, because I need the stripped down motherboard for reference in the case that I'm going to do some modifications on. Yeah, I'm going to chop up that Lancool too. I'll get to that, but first let's tear this build down, and I'll tell you about each component as I get to it, starting with the video card, which is the Asus Strix GTX 1080. Yes, this is a last generation card. However, performance wise, it's still comparable to the newer RTX 2070 or the Radeon RX 5700 XT. In fact, I'd put it right between the two of them. Also, I picked this card up for a grand total of $34 for shipping. Long story short, I bought this card used on eBay for $295. Great price. If you can get one of these for under 300 bucks, it's a deal. Anyway, I got the card and it was dead on arrival. I mean, it happens. Contacted the seller, no reply. Also happens. Contacted eBay, requested buyer protection support. They came through. They sent me a label. I returned the card. Then I got it back, returned to sender. Apparently, the seller used a bogus address. So, contacted eBay again. I got a full refund within 24 hours. Buyer protection, gotta love it. So now, a full refund and a dead GTX 1080. But this GTX 1080 is working, so what gives? Next step, I got on the Asus RMA site, ran the serial number, card is in warranty, shipped the card to Asus, $34 shipping. Asus sent back a refurbished GTX 1080. So, full refund, working factory refurbished GTX 1080, best deal ever. But I don't expect fate to play out for anyone else the way it did for me. So again, if you're patient, you can grab one of these off the used market for around 300 bucks. If you're looking for something new that's comparable, you're looking at the $400 to $450 price range. Next, I'll pull off this beast of a cooler. Now, I selected the Be Quiet Dark Rock Pro TR4 for this build for one primary reason: reliability. This system is going to my daughter, who is, well, a well-trained professional when it comes to using the computer to create 3D models, animations, and video production. So she's a legitimate pro when it comes to the software. But the hardware, let's just say when all her tech is working like it should, she's a strong, independent young woman. But when it's not, well, she's like a toddler whose favorite toy stopped working. Fix it, Daddy. There will be no custom loop that will never be maintained as long as I'm 1,000 miles away. No liquid AIO whose pump can fail. There will be this very reliable air cooler, which at most may need a fan replaced in the very distant future. A job I'm confident I can walk her through via FaceTime. onto the memory. This is one of the more expensive components of this build, coming in at $180. But again, I selected this 32 gigabyte kit of Trident Z RGB DDR4 memory because it was on the motherboard QVL, so reliability. I know it works right out of the box at its XMP setting, so we end up with one 8 gig stick per channel at 3200 megahertz and a cast latency of 14. Now, I can actually tune this memory and achieve some tighter timings, but I'm just gonna leave it at XMP defaults because, say it with me, reliability. Okay, now onto the boot drive. And under here, we have a 1 terabyte Intel 660p NVMe SSD. If you saw my Cyber Monday deals video, this is the SSD I selected, and I actually bought 2 of them. This one has the boot drive because not only is it going to store Windows 10, but the plethora of production software my daughter uses, including like the entire Adobe suite, the entire Autodesk suite, as well as some other less known but just as intense software like Toon Boom, Mari, ZBrush, DaVinci Resolve, and stuff I've never even heard of. I guess thank God for corporate licensing because there's literally tens of thousands of dollars of software on this drive. Okay, now onto the brains of the operation, the first component I selected for the build, and many of you have probably already guessed from, well, all the other components, and, well, probably the title of this video, unless I do some clickbaity stuff, but the CPU is a Threadripper, of course. X399 board, TR4 cooler, couldn't be anything else. And you are correct. This is the 1920X 12-core 24-thread Threadripper part. Now, I can already sense some of the disappointment out there. First-gen Threadripper, 12-core puny Threadripper. I get it. There are better mainstream chips out there right now. But what this CPU had over everything else on the market is price point. Because I bought this 12-core 24-thread CPU for $200, brand new. That's like $8 and change per thread. That's all I'm gonna say. Any CPU you're thinking of right now that can outperform this, divide its cost by its number of threads, this crushes it. Especially when you consider the work it's primarily gonna be doing, which is 3D animation and rendering. Pretty much exactly what it was designed to do. Finally, the last piece of the puzzle, the motherboard, is the X399 Aorus Extreme Gaming Motherboard. I don't know why these manufacturers kept calling X399 boards gaming. I mean, the Threadripper, definitely the first and second gen Threadrippers were not gaming CPUs, and if you bought one for gaming, well, then you may have messed up and wasted a whole bunch of money. Anyway, enough of my tirade. Let's talk about the motherboard and why I selected it, which can be a long story, but pretty much mimics the GTX 1080 story, except I knew going in this board was non-operational when I bought it. So now I'm going to give you a little eBay insider information for getting great deals on used hardware, if you don't mind gambling. If you see a used piece of tech on an eBay auction with keywords like non-operational, as is, not working, and here's the big one, no physical damage, and most importantly, there's a photo of the serial number, run that serial number through the manufacturer's RMA website, most likely it'll be in warranty and eligible for repair. Basically what the seller is telling you is this hardware doesn't work, but the manufacturer will fix it for you for free. So after I'd say about 4 or 5 various X399 motherboard auctions, I landed this one for 35 bucks. I got the board, sent it to Gigabyte, they ended up reprogramming the BIOS, and I got a fully functional board back for a grand total of $57 because I paid $22 to ship it to Gigabyte. So that's it. The only thing not on the workbench at the moment is the PSU, which is the Corsair RM850X, fully modular, 80 plus gold rated. It's about 130 bucks, but won't burn down my daughter's house, so peace of mind there. And a triple pack of Lian Li Boralite 120mm fans, which cost me about 40 bucks. Add the 90 for the case here, and the total out of pocket for this build is $786. I mean, that's insane, but that's considering the GPU was essentially free, so adding the original cost of that in, like I said I would, that brings the cost to just $1,081. Still insane for what is a professional workstation. So now I did actually pocket that $295, so I'm gonna use that cash to pimp out the system a little. So let's move on to the case. So if you're not familiar with the Lian Li Lancool 2, there are a ton of reviews on YouTube on it. Reviewers have called it everything from case of the year to the best value case available. Now, I actually agree with most of them. The case is very well built, a great value at a $90 MSRP, and it's packed full of features. The one feature that I want to take advantage of is the right side glass panel. Now, this is one of my favorite features of the case, but it's also one that confuses me the most. See, under the glass you have, well, steel. I mean, these steel panels. Now, I get what they're used for, to cover up an ugly mess of cables. I don't get why. I mean, glass is made to be seen through, and all you could see through this glass is steel. I mean, why not just make this panel steel and save the few bucks in tempered glass costs? So let's just get rid of stuff. Let me get this out of the way. And yeah, we don't need that. Yeah, we'll get rid of that. I don't think we need this. Might have a use for those. Get rid of that. That's a nice idea, but don't need that. Okay, now I have some space to work with. And I've cut this piece of acrylic roughly to size to fit back here to give me a clean canvas. Oh, but I see I still have some standoffs here. The standoffs for those panels I got rid of that are in the way, so I guess I got some chopping to do. Oh, safety first. Now let's see how that works. All right, now to attach this. I'm gonna install some standoffs that I can then screw the acrylic to, but I need to drill and tap some holes for those standoffs to screw into first. Got the pilot holes drilled, now I just need to tap those holes so I can screw those standoffs into it. All right, now that I got my standoffs in place, I'm gonna take my acrylic sheet again. Okay, now I've gone ahead and marked out and drilled out the screw holes for the acrylic panel. I'm just going to use a couple screws just to hold it in place here. All right, now that that's in place, let's get the motherboard in. Okay, I got the motherboard installed. I'm also going to install the graphics card. All right, now with all that installed, I can start marking where I want my cables to pass through, because if you haven't figured it out by now, this acrylic sheet that I've installed is going to be my cable management board. So if you saw the opening animation of this video and all my videos, you notice that that animated computer had some pretty intense cable management going on. This is going to be done pretty much like that. So basically what I'm going to do for my 24-pin connector here, right on this panel, I will drill out 24 holes just like that. And the cables will pass through from the back side. Same thing for my graphics card, although in this case I'm going to do something a little different. So here I'm going to take my power cables. I have an 8 and a 6-pin connector, and I'm going to run them out this way and back in rather than under the graphics card and down through the power supply shroud. How I'm going to do that is I have 16 gauge solid copper wire. Once I shape it and route it, it'll stay exactly as I want it to. And those will pass through pretty much right through here. Then the same thing for my 2 8-pin EPS connectors. And then on the back side, piece of acrylic similar to this, be mounted, cut to the right width, be mounted here, one here and one on this side. And my power cables, again, be holes drilled here. There'll be a total of 56 wires. So I have the 24-pin connector, an 8 and a 6-pin connector for my graphics card, and 2 8-pin connectors for the EPS power supply. So those individual holes will be drilled in this bottom, and then the cables can route up and through. For this, I think I'm only going to concentrate on my power cables. My front panel connectors will actually hide behind this strip on this side. The RGB and fan cables for the top and back fan will hide behind here. All the acrylic will be painted matte black with the exception of these 2 side pieces, which will be frosted. And then I'll mount LED strips behind so I get some diffuse light that just lights up this whole inside of the panel. And as far as cabling options, I'm going to keep it pretty simple and basic. That's why I'm using LED lights to illuminate the side, because I'm just going with black, carbon, and titanium cabling just to give it a neutral color tone that matches the very subtle black and gray of the motherboard itself. And then to make sure all 56 of these cables are routed nice, straight, and neatly, I have this 9mm acrylic, which I'll cut out blocks and drill out holes, so it basically is a more robust form of this, which will be mounted to the acrylic sheet to route the cables. So I got a bit more work to do, but I think that's where we'll leave it for today. Thanks for joining me on this build intro / case mod session. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, go ahead and click that like icon. And if you want to see how this build turns out, be sure to get subscribed. That is the best way you can support a small channel like mine. And until next time, have a great week.